Hey guys, Brianna here, and welcome to my favorites of 2016 video. These are my favorite books, and I read so many good books this year. Books I loved, that made me cry, that just I thought were brilliant. So yeah, let's get started. Got my list here. First, Revenge by Yoko Agawa, which is a short story collection of horrors, and it was just like intertwining stories. There's like two leads, and they're friends but kind of not friends, and they find murders and people die, and like you get perspectives from some of the victims. Like it was brilliant and it blew my mind. And I, as I've said before, I'm not a fan of short story collections, and this really made me feel like, okay, like I'll give some other collections a try because it was just that brilliant. The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. Gillian Flynn is now one of my favorite authors. I've read all of her stuff, all of her books, and her short story collection, and I really, really, really need her to write more stuff because her stuff is brilliant. Grown Up is a short story, and so another short story that I liked, and she is like babysitting for some family or something like that. It's been a long time. I read this like the beginning of last year, and the son is like, oh my gosh, my mom and dad are abusive, da 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 da, and then he like tricks her into something, and like you don't know what's real or not real. Oh, they think there's a ghost in the house, and like bad stuff's happening, and I don't even know how to explain it, but like and it's so short. I don't want to like say more because that like gives it away, but it's like you end up being like, what is true? And I was at first not drawn to it because I don't like ghosts and ghost stories, but it's not about ghosts or anything like that. It ends up being like about real stuff, so it's awesome. We have Slammerkin by Emma Donoghue. I've read Room by her, and I've read Slammerkin by her, and I own another book by her, I think. But anyways, she's just brilliant. Slammerkin was about like a prostitute in like the year, a girl who has to become one to survive, and her story, and her and her friends. Oh no, she becomes pregnant, so her mom kicks her out, and then that's why. And it was just really interesting and very raw and very like real, and just the story of that. And I really liked it. I know it's one of my 5-star reads for the year, and I really want to read more by Emma Donoghue. I actually have The Wonder. I picked that up a while ago by her, so I am excited to keep reading more of her stuff. We have the third book in the Captive Prince trilogy. I've talked about it so much, I will not keep talking about it right now. You can't see it, it's off camera, but King's Rising. Please read this series, please. It's so good. It's queer fiction, and it's so brilliant, and I really want C.S. Pacat to read more, or to write more, because she's got a fan here. We have Bright Young Things by Scarlett Thomas. So good. That's where like these poor like college students, college age students apply to this ad that says like, if Bright Young Things wanted, like da 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 da, and they all end up on an island, and after filling out this survey, and it's so just like, they're definitely someone's like social experiment, and it ends up being like, there's a dead body, there's everything they feel on the island, and they just talk, and they, like there's alliances, and it was just such a fun story, semi-spooky story to read, and I had never read anything by Scarlett Thomas before, and the cover of the book is brilliant. I don't remember where it is. It's somewhere on this bookshelf. These bookshelves. And I've shown them before, but loved that book. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. This is about a queer woman growing up in a religious household, and it's just amazing and fascinating, and I think it's one of those books that if you are queer and you grew up in a religious household, like that is, to figure out your life, like that's all the tools you have. And she's in a very close-knit religious community, so the only tools you have to figure out yourself are your religion and the Bible and like stuff like that, and going through that and trying to figure out your life and everything, and with your family and church friends. It's so interesting, and it's about this girl as she grows up and handles that, and it's brilliant, and it's my favorite. I've tried to find so many more books that deal with queer women that are really good and interesting, and this is really the only one that I read in recent years that or that I've read at all that I really liked. I really would love to read more. I didn't like Fingersmith by Sarah Waters, so yeah. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. You guys all know how much I love him, so I won't I won't talk too much about that, but it's about three brothers, the Karamazov brothers, and one is religious, one is in love with his other brother's fiance, who is a brother, but his brother's in love with someone else, the same person his father's in love with. So that's the premise of the three brothers, and this is like everything that comes together. Fun fact, it was also the longest book I read this year. The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. So good. Oh my gosh, so good. This bookstore owner guy ends up with a daughter with a girl like showing up at his bookstore, and he adopts her, and the relationship's beautiful, and it's about his life, and then also about his like sister and his sister's married life, and like you find out some stuff, and it's just one of those stories about life, and it's told so brilliantly, and you cry, and it's awesome. We have City of Thieves by David Benioff, set during World War II, I think, and in Russia or the Ukraine, and these two guys get captured, and he says, my daughter's getting married. They take him to the commander, and the guy's like, my daughter's getting married, I need to find 12 eggs. Well, the city's in shambles and in war. Like, there's no eggs to find anywhere because they need eggs for the cake. And they go on this journey, and the premise sounds like it's kind of like, oh, but it's actually super serious and real, and you cry. I cried. And, oh my gosh, like, the feelings. 5 stars, like, so good. Please read City of Thieves by David Benioff. The Truth About the Harry Caber Affair, by Joel Dicker. I talked about this a lot. This, to me, so talking about, like, my disappointment with the Tana French mysteries, this book, to me, was a quintessential, the best mystery I've read in years, since I used to read, like, Nancy Drew, like, kid stories. Like, this, to me, it was, like, the quintessential adult mystery to me. Like, it was so good, and everyone I recommended it to lost their minds because they were like, this is so brilliant, this is amazing. I really want to look up more stuff and read more mysteries by him, because I was blown away. I finally finished a mystery in my adult life and was like, holy moly. We have The Burgess Boys by Elizabeth Strout, two brothers and their sister, but the book's called The Burgess Boys. And just their lives, and how one brother's like a hotshot lawyer, and there was an accident as a kid where the other brother accidentally pulled the parking brake and like ran over their father with the car, and killed him, and how they all kind of developed and learned from that, and then you find out some truths about that incident, and just their life, and like their sister's son did something really bad, and that can be considered a hate crime, and so rightfully so, but also scarily so, he is being hounded by the people in the city for what he did, and all this stuff, and yeah, again, it's kind of just a story about life, and things happen, but it's so good, and I really liked that story. We have The Pillow Man by Martin McDonagh. It's like a very obscure play, and so good. These two brothers, this one guy he gets pulled in the police station because of something his brother did, and he's like, what are you talking about, like, da-da-da, and it turns out he always told his brother all these stories, and the police believe he was killing people that imitated his brother's stories, which is why his brother got called in, because his brother's a writer. But then you also end up not knowing exactly what's 100% true, and it's just creepy, and it's like, these stories, and you don't know, like, the background, it's so good. It was so brilliant. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Then we have The Cold War by John Lewis Gaddis, which is a nonfiction book about the Cold War, which was awesome. If you like learning and reading about history, but sometimes history books just make things so complicated that it kind of takes the fun out of it, because you're kind of trying to keep track of everything. I would definitely recommend this book. It was brilliant. We have The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Loved it. About immigrants moving to America, kind of doing like the, not industrial revolution, but like factories and like all that stuff. Yeah, it wasn't that, but just living in America at that time, and how they we don't treat them. They get they did not treat them good, and they took advantage of them and how tough it was. And the main guy's motto was always to work harder, work harder. I can always work harder. I can always work harder. Well, you know, human beings' bodies can only go so far, and it's just about his family and survival. And then it kind of weirdly ends with this talk about like socialism and communism and stuff. But I mean, like, I digged it, so I don't know. I really liked it. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people, like, growing up, I heard that this book was about the meat industry because the impact of this book affected hygiene within the meat industry and stuff like that and regulations. But like, that's not what this book is about. But of course, Americans were like, oh my gosh, like, instead of being like, wow, we treat these people so poorly, it was like, oh my gosh, like, I know they're working so long and so hard, and like, they're like dying, but like, what about us and like the food we eat? So like, it literally went up to like the presidential level, and the impact was hygiene instead of like, I don't know, workers' rights. But yeah, The Art of Fielding by Chad Urbach. This guy scouts this high schooler, and they go to college and play baseball, but it's about so much more than that. And there's a lot of psychological stuff that goes on. There's an affair between a student and the president, who's the father of someone else, and like, but not like any kind of like cheating affair or anything like that. But and it's just, I really liked a lot of the characters, and it was just about so much more. Just, oh my gosh, it's just like one of those like real stories again about, and they just happened to play baseball, and it was just so good. Like, I think it was going around a little bit like a year or two ago, but it was just so good, and I would recommend it. It was just fantastic. I really, really liked it. We have Shelter by Young Yoon, which everyone and their moms have heard about, and this messed me up. This is another family story, and you were just left feeling like, I don't know what to think. Yeah, this guy and his wife, the house or whatever, they're losing money, so they're thinking of asking their parents for help. Well, his mom runs out naked one day, and where the realtor's there, and she's like, do you know that lady? Like, and it's his mom, and it turns out, like, there was robbers and stuff, but, like, there's so much more to the story that comes out, and there's secrets, and it's family, and it's about, like, how much do you owe your family, even if you felt like they wronged you? When do you forgive them for that? And it was just, like, you had no idea you're so mad at the main character, but you had no idea who, you rightfully so were mad at the main guy, the son, but you learn so much, and so much is revealed that you're like, I don't know how to feel about anybody, and it's just such a sad and upsetting situation. So, it was brilliant. The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters, which is awesome because I really didn't like Fingersmith by her. And then I read The Little Stranger, and what's really funny is I finished it and was so angry, and 5 minutes later I was like, this is brilliant. So, this guy, there used to be this really beautiful house and rich family that would always, like, that would do parties, and he went there as a kid once with his mom, and he was, like, obsessed with the house, and he, like, took a piece of the house with him. Well, then years later, he, like, meets them because he's a doctor, and the usual doctor's out of town or something, and he gets to meet the daughter there, and the house is, like, in shambles because, like, money or whatever, and he just becomes a friend of the family, but spooky stuff is happening. You don't know if it's a ghost, you don't know of what, and it's really affecting everyone's mental health, and, yeah. And I think you get so much out of it once you finish it, and you're like, and you reflect on stuff that happened, and I really liked, I went online and I looked at reviews and, like, people's discussions about, like, what's the truth, and I was just, like, blown away, because you realize how brilliant it is after. Stitches, a memoir by David Small, which is a graphic novel, just about a son and his family, and, you know, families have secrets. He ends up getting cancer in the throat, because back then they used to think that doing x-rays when they first discovered them was so cool, and they would use them for everything, and then his dad feels bad because he's like, I gave you cancer, dude. And there's other family secrets that come out, and it was just a great graphic novel about family. Far from the Maddening Crowd by Thomas Hardy. I always thought it was Far from the Maddening Crowd. It's madding. Doesn't matter. So good. There's this chick named Bathsheba who's, like, super cool and independent and, like, takes care of the farm on her own. And there's these other guys that are, like, into her. And stuff happens, and, like, scandalous stuff happens. And it was just a great story about just one of the classics, and it was really, really, really good. And I loved Bathsheba, how she was so like independent and awesome, and I loved how like, you know, like the guy that's in love with her like just helps her like, and like is good and just, you know, he does what he can to help her, but you know he's not expecting anything out of her, and it's just such a good relationship. I was like, oh, this guy's so sweet. And then of course she has other suitors, and she has to like figure out what's right for herself to do. And then it's also like if you're being harassed, like there's only so much you can do as a woman, but tell them to like wait, or like say, okay, we'll talk next year, like but it was just really great, and I really liked it, and that was my first Thomas Hardy book, so I'm looking forward to more. Oh my gosh, okay, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. Fantastic. I talked a lot about it in my wrap up. It's a World War II story. This family moves because his dad got promoted in Hitler's army. Like Hitler came to dinner, but then like his son doesn't realize why he can't become friends with the guy on the other side of the fence. They form a friendship, and then something really bad happens, like really bad. And it's kind of just, you know, like that's this father's protecting his family by not saying no to Hitler's post or whatever, but it's just bad stuff happens, and it's like when you're complicit, bad stuff happens. But okay, The Bellwether Revivals by Benjamin Wood, and this is a story, one of those college murder something bad happens story, where this guy becomes friends with this close group knit of friends, and he likes this one guy's sister, and they date and stuff, but then like bad stuff happens. Her brother's really obsessed with this idea that music can heal the body, and when you get that wrapped up, sometimes things go too far, but I thought it was brilliant. And the other book that's like that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, but I thought they were both uniquely fantastic. It wasn't some kind of copying, it wasn't some kind of format that was like the same. It was brilliant because The Secret History is about a collective group of madness, and The Bellwether Revivals is about a singular one and people trying to do their best around to help, and everything, but stuff just happens, and I thought it was so good, so good. Finally, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I finished this the other day, and I talked about it in my wrap-up, so my like most recent wrap-up, so I won't say anything, but this guy gets stranded on an island, and there's all these interesting creatures, and it's like it's one of those like sci-fi-ish type things, and I think it's something that I've never read about before. And you can kind of, you obviously know that like things are going to go downhill, but this guy does experiments there, and it's interesting, and yeah, okay, oh my gosh, this is so long, but these are all the books that I loved in 2017, it's 2016, whew. And there was a lot of them, so I'm very, very pretty proud of that. Let me know if you guys have read any of these, if you enjoyed them too, or if you didn't enjoy them, let me know. And again, welcome to 2017. May this year be so good for you and for the world in general. And I will see you guys next time.